everyone. Welcome back. So I wanted to bring you through a chart. So this one is the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we're having on April 20th. It's been building up, but it's exact on the 20th. And I wanted to get this to you a little ahead of time so you could maximize all the awesome potential that's coming through with those two planets together. So I'll take you through all the houses of the chart. So if you bust out your charts and follow along with me, I think it'll be very helpful. Okay, so hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so here's our chart, and I'm using a 0 degree ascendant, 0 degree Aries ascendant, because it's the natural house setup. So you can see, if you can see the natural house setup, then it's easier for learning, I think. The sign and degree on the ascendant is dependent upon time and place. And it sets up the houses for the entire chart. Now, of course, I don't know where you live, and running charts for one area over another, I think, is confusing and kind of annoying. But to understand this transit in your natal chart, you're going to want to think in terms of overlaying this chart on top of yours, or drawing in the planets into the houses of your chart, which I totally recommend, but don't forget to, include the degrees, right? So, and then remember also, another note that I have to try to remember to let you all know is that if you're inclined to listen to a YouTube video where the astrologer says, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, or this whatever, planetary thing going on, through all signs, it's like the event and then all signs. Well, there's a very high chance it will be inaccurate for you because, of course, that astrologer does not know your birth time or place, and therefore cannot know for sure which house this is coming in your chart. So, remember, it's just so important to remember each house is an area of our lives. So you don't want inaccurate information about that, right? You don't want somebody talking about your first house when it's really your 12th, or second house when it's really your third, right? That's the thing. Okay, so back to this conjunction. As far as timing goes, we have this transit every 14 years, but the last time it was in the sign of Taurus, which represents all things related to safety and stability and self-preservation and ownership and the principles that we, that we follow in our lives. That was in 1941. It was in May of 1941. And of course, that was when Hitler and his cronies were rounding up as many Jewish people as they could find. And it wasn't long before more than half of all European people were under the control of Nazis. And the Japanese army was also advancing across Asia as well. But over the following 4 years, there were scientific breakthroughs, some healing and some very scary, like the atomic bomb. But the good things that happened were with groups of people who worked together for the good of humanity. And it's important to know that Uranus rules groups, group consciousness, all type of groups, and most of all, awareness. So turns out in May of 1941, the U.S. Office of Scientific Research and Development was given enormous funding, an enormous amount of fundage to develop weapons, including the atomic bomb. And then in June of 1941, British military intelligence launched Ultra. You've probably heard of that podcast with Rachel Maddow. So anyway, that one, Ultra, was dedicated to code breaking and eventually deciphered Germany's Enigma code. So I think that's a really cool point in history. Now, some historians believe this shortened the war by several years, that development of the Enigma code. So that's even way cooler. And that's a perfect example of Jupiter and Uranus combined together in the sign of Taurus, which is all about safety and security. So, that's the power of Jupiter's expansion. Jupiter here, his expansion and healing, and Uranus is science and technology. So, not to worry about war again because so many of us have evolved since then. And it's important to note that we have completely different planetary energies than now than we did in 1941. Plus, we have had prior conjunctions of Jupiter and Uranus from 1997 to 1998. That one was in the sign of Aquarius. And then from 2010 to 11, we had it in Pisces. So, important things to remember are that Jupiter represents all laws. And because of this, we might see even more laws to protect ourselves and our children online. All things online are ruled by Uranus. And we might see even more people seeking universal truth through astrology because, of course, Uranus rules astrology. And so if you just think of some of the things that Jupiter rules. It rules our belief system, our faith, abundance. It believes where we will. It relates to what we will believe, enough to invest our time in. It can rule excess, but it's most of all faith and expansiveness and fortune and looking towards the future, which Uranus is as well. It can be related to people taking too much risk, but most of all, it's a graceful planet. It's a growth-producing planet. It's all about our higher mind and higher learning. It can bring through so much optimism that you are willing to take a risk and go towards something that would bring in a lot more excitement and opportunity into your life. Now, Uranus is also our planet that's connected to our intuition. And some other, besides technology with Uranus, besides astrology and technology that I was talking about, it has to do, most of all, with opening your mind, thinking more freely. And connecting with people, on a humanitarian level is a very, that's a really important part of Uranus. But, you guys have heard me say it a million times, that Uranus is our change agent. So we're thinking more progressively. But anyway, so if you look up here at the left of this chart, this is when it's exact for my area. So the Pacific time, it would be 7:27 p.m., April 20th. But it's been building, right? And we can see that it's at 21 degrees of Taurus. And because it's in the third decan of the sign, we're in the process. We have the decans within the degrees. In case you didn't know that, we have 0 to 9 degrees being, how in a beginning of a developmental phase. And then 10 to 19 degrees, we're learning and integrating. Well, from 20 to 29 degrees, because all the signs go from 0 to 29 degrees, we're in that third decan. So the third decan is all about deepening a foundation of something that you've already been building. It's one of those nice, one of the nicest qualities with that third decan is that we're in the process of mastering our lessons, and I think unfolding our unique gifts, especially with Uranus there. This transit has been building since July of 2023, when the two planets were about 10 degrees apart. So this is a high pitch point. Now, Jupiter's going to move on into Gemini in May 25th. So this is important to get this going. Let's see, what else? I feel like Jupiter's conjunction with Uranus is really, really exciting. I feel it's all about focusing on the future and reinventing ourselves. So if you need progress and change in your life, Uranus is, that change agent to help you get there. And it's a really good time to update, redo, renovate. We could be renewing ourselves. We could be reinventing ourselves. We could be bringing in something new to add to the projects that we've already stabilized, or opening up to brand new projects. Anything, any circumstance in your life, and then connections with your like-minded friends, that's everything under the realm of Jupiter and Uranus together. Mostly Uranus, but Jupiter, just think of expansion and opening things up. Jupiter is one of the builders of the zodiac. It comes through and opens things up and brings in opportunity. And then Saturn, the other builder of the zodiac, comes in and brings in some reality testing. So I'll go through the backdrop of this chart in just a little bit, but I just wanted to focus in so you can get the flavors for Jupiter and Uranus together. So it's goal-oriented, I think, is the best way to just kind of generalize it. Now, that's especially true because you can see we have this double trine up here to Ceres. Ceres is at 19 degrees, 51 minutes of Capricorn, where Jupiter and Uranus are at 21 degrees, 49 minutes of Taurus. So we have this applying trine, meaning applying means that it's stronger. When the energies have crossed over beyond the degree of exactitude, don't think that's a word, but what happens is that then it's like the phases of the moon, where when it's coming out of a full moon phase, it's weakening, it's waning, it's considered waning. So we have applying. In astrology, we have terms of applying and separating. So we're in the applying phase, where this is a juicy, ripe time to get something going. And we're still in the dregs of Mercury retrograde, but it can... That can be done pretty quickly. I'm not so fearful of Mercury retrograde, unless you're setting up a business and it's a business where you're selling products and you have carts and it's complicated, because Mercury rules transactions and all forms of communication. Until Mercury is direct and kind of out of that retro shade, it might be, which it would be 27 degrees when Mercury goes direct and then gets past that 27 degrees, which I'll talk about in my weekly transits. Or if you really need to know what date that is, drop it in the comments and I'll look real quick and get right back to you, quick as I can. So anyway, this trine to Ceres up here is super important, because this is what brings in that orientation to following through with our goals. Uranus is definitely all about goals, as well as Jupiter really brings in that inspiration to follow your goals. So with Ceres up here in Capricorn, you're going to want to pay attention to what house Ceres is transiting through in your chart, because Ceres brings in how we nurture, how we take care of ourselves and those we love, as well as working for justice and humanity. Ceres is related to our maternal imprint, and also food, farming, agriculture, and all the cycles of a woman's life. And this transit is the precursor, I believe, for getting back women's reproductive rights in all states. It's also important to note that Ceres goes retrograde on May 14th and begins her journey back to 7 degrees of Capricorn, and then stations direct on August 26th of this year. So we'll have a few months, to revisit that area. Now, wherever this is in your chart, that's going to be important for you. But back to when Roe v. Wade was overturned on June 24th, 2022. Ceres was at 17 degrees of Cancer, the opposite sign. So this is, I think, going to be really important, and especially in terms of how ironic it is. Cancer's a sign of the mother, right? So there's that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to Ceres retrograding in Capricorn because I see it as us women taking responsibility for our own health care and working hard to get the vote out. Now, some other notes here. If people are coming from a lot of negativity with Jupiter and Uranus, Jupiter has the tendency to blow things up, and in their lives in ways that they can't ignore. There's a blowing up of something, and then Uranus is like, oh, now I'm aware, right? The Great Awakener is another name for Uranus. So they might, with this transit, they might take risks that are unnecessary just for the sake of freedom, and because Uranus and Aquarius can be related to rebellion. So, there's that. And then they also might avoid taking responsibility for the things that really matter, of course, because they're rebelling. That need for what they call freedom. But myself, I know that real freedom comes from taking self-responsibility in all areas of your life. Otherwise, something's just always dogging you, right? Like, it's not a good feeling. So, but for most of us, we're open to new energies and approaches and attitudes, which can totally shift reality. Remember, everything is, works from the inside out. And we can have really fortunate events, as a direct result of our willingness to think outside the box. Usually with Jupiter conjunct Uranus, we're all feeling more brave and positive and optimistic. But on the downside, especially if it hits like your sun or your moon, you could, or maybe even Mercury, you could be feeling so energized that it might be hard to get enough rest. So let's focus a little bit on your chart. And I'll try to go really slow so you can take notes and write this down and then check it into your chart later on. So if your sun or your moon is in 21 to 22 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, this conjunction will affect you immensely. If it conjuncts any of your personal planet. Now remember, let's go back to the meaning of a conjunction really quickly. When conjunctions occur, it's a fusion of the two planets together. The two planetary bodies take on, it's kind of like people having sex. They really get to know each other, right? So with that infusion on any of your personal planets, you get that hit of energy. And for orbs, I would use 8 degrees or less. So if this conjunction hits any planets or one of the 4 hot points in your chart, the ascendant, the IC, the descendant, the midheaven, which I'll go into when I get to the houses, within 13 to 29 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, this will be an important transit for you. Especially the hot points, because it could trigger bringing in something. So now, whichever those planets or points are, will be energized with this transit. So the personal planets will get a boost of energy with the Jupiter conjunct Uranus on that planet. And I'll go through those planets in a minute, or a few minutes. So anyway, even if Jupiter and Uranus don't fall on a planet or a hot point, we'll still be feeling it in terms of the house it falls in. Because, of course, like I said, that'll be the area of your life that will be receiving all the energy. Now, if this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction hits a personal planet and squares another personal planet or hot point in this transit, there can be some tension. But when it's all over, you could find yourself in a position of strength, greater strength, if you work the energy. So it's all about using the energy in a positive way. Now, remember the signs that square Taurus are Leo and Aquarius. So if you have personal planets between the degrees of 13 to 29 of Leo or Aquarius, this can be a decision-making time for you. And you might even be confronted with major choices that you need to make because it's trying to usher in a new life for you, a new chapter in your life. Now, on the other hand, if you have planets in those 13 to 29 degrees of either Cancer or Pisces, this configuration will be sextiling those planets and bringing in new opportunities for you. Remember, sextiles are always opportunities. If you have any personal planets in that range of 13 to 29 degrees of Virgo or Capricorn, this transit will be trining those personal planets. Let's see here. So with a trine, you can have just this really quick, easy, graceful flow of abundance that can come through, and maybe some innovation, like you just suddenly have all this energy to really get going on something that you were thinking of doing in the past, but maybe you were a little afraid to try it. Well, now you want to do it. It could really bring that through. Or it could be something in the outer world that it could be a person or an opportunity through a group of people that an invitation, something like that, and then suddenly you have a life change going on. And that would especially be true if you're having your Jupiter return, because Jupiter makes it all the way around the zodiac every 12 years or 11.89, something like that, around, where Uranus, and Jupiter stays in each sign for about a year. Uranus takes 7 years through each sign and 84 years to get all the way around the chart. So if you're having your Jupiter return, like if you natally have Jupiter anywhere in that 13 to 29 degrees of Taurus, you've been being energized already. You've been going through it, and this will be like a fever pitch point where you're like, okay, let's go, man. So now let's go through Jupiter and Uranus touching all the planets. Okay, so if Jupiter and Uranus are crossing over your sun, if you have your sun between 13 and 29 degrees of Taurus, this will bring through tons of energy, like right in your solar plexus, in your core, in your third chakra, in your total being will be more energized. And this is one of those transits where you're probably going to have to make a lot of conscious choices to get enough sleep and get enough rest and stay really grounded. Now, Taurian people are very, very good at grounding already. So it might just give you a big boost of energy to get you going where you were maybe hesitating in the past before. Because, Taurus is a lot like Cancer. You kind of, you really want to be safe. It's all about safety and security first. So this could be a really good transit to get you going. It can help you focus energy. It can bring in so much more awareness than you had before. It can bring something to your attention that you maybe hadn't thought of. It can bring people, shining a spotlight on you and suddenly seeing you in a whole new way where they are really seeing who you truly are, but before they just couldn't see it for some reason or another, couldn't really see you. It's also, this could be very energizing and expansive for any travel that you need to do, any type of journey work, shamanic journey work, or helping you in your vocation, helping you with your life purpose. It also could be something new for your father, coming. There could be something new coming into his life if he's still with us on the planet. But it's also good for anybody in a leadership position, And it's also really, really good for you being in your own inner authority. So that's fantastic. Now, if you have your moon anywhere between that 13 and 29 degrees, well, if it's in the earlier degrees, you would have been feeling this a lot longer, but quite some time ago, like last year, right? But after some time of adjusting through Uranus coming across your moon, now that Jupiter has caught up, the deal there is that it's very possible that there's an expansion and healing. Like the Uranus crossing over your moon could have been a very psychic opening for you, but you didn't really trust it because it seems like it came out of nowhere. You had all those aha moments. You had so many intuitive hits. And or maybe it was that you had to stop and take care of your mother, like an elderly mother, or take care of children, because the moon relates to, the whole family. It relates to our bodies. It relates to so Uranus crossing over the moon could have brought through changes with the way you take care of yourself on a daily basis, your self-care, your eating habits, everything at home, basically. And the moon also rules, the mood of the public. So Uranus crossing over your moon, you would have been very sensitive to the what's going on out there in the collective consciousness. Now, with Jupiter crossing over your moon, now there's this expansion of, with this combination here, like if you do have your moon be anywhere between 20, if it's a tight hit, like even at like 17, 18, somewhere in there, or 23, 24, 25, somewhere in there, like a real tight hit, like 3 to 5 degrees. What you're dealing with there, it has to do with that big expansion that's coming in, because Uranus has been there, but now Jupiter coming in and bringing that extra oomph of energy. Now you have the opening to new horizons in your life. You've got the optimism, and maybe you're just open, much more open to having a lot of ease and grace in your life. Like that's how you build grace and ease in your life, is you focus in on the grace that you already have, and that's your starting point, that's your stable point. And Jupiter also brings in wisdom, as well as Uranus too, but Jupiter really is connected to spiritual law, natural law. Now, it could also bring in the element of travel. It brings in the element of believing in yourself, investing in yourself, trusting yourself. Jupiter's all about seeking. So there could just be this, real quest for getting to the truth, especially when it hits like the sun or the moon. Now, let's move on to Mercury. So this connection here with Mercury could kind of have your mind going more quickly, but what you're doing with it, especially in the sign of Taurus, is wanting to find patterns, wanting to track patterns, wanting to connect, make those, the place where you're like analyzing something and then suddenly everything fits together. Or maybe you've already been learning something and you've learned a lot and you're really, you feel really solid. Well, with this transit, it could bring in something new where you connect a new level of the dots. So it's awesome. This could be, if you're in communication of any type with your job, this could be very, very helpful. Mercury also rules the way we vote. It rules our siblings even, and the way we write, all ways that we express ourselves. So this could be a very energizing transit for that. There could be that wanting to communicate better if that's ever been hard for you. Or maybe you're thinking about doing some public speaking and it's always been kind of scary. And now you have, with this transit, you just very well may have that, I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, if you have Jupiter Uranus connecting with your Venus on your natal Venus, if you have your natal Venus anywhere between those, those tight degrees of 17 to say 20, 25, this will be really important. But if you've already had Uranus crossing over your Venus, you've gone through great, changes in relationship. I'm sure that you could, put your hand up and go, yeah, that's me. Now with Jupiter, we can have some healing around that. Venus is all about our relationships. It's all about bringing in harmony. It's all about bringing in unity. It helps us to make comparison values about how we want to live. It helps with anything that brings gratification into your life. It's all about your positive pleasure or pleasure in your life. It's all about your self-worth. It's all about, all those things that you value, like I said. And it also relates to all things of, the feminine. It can also be about indulging a little too much. So we have to be careful with that. But then again, maybe you needed to get, your eating under control that was, for some reason, a little challenging. And with Jupiter in there, maybe there's that grounding, healing energy that really changes that for you. Because remember, most of all, Jupiter is all about healing. It really is. And you might be much more focused on the future than you ever were before when you have Jupiter, Uranus, connect with Venus, because Venus also rules your money. So, yeah. Now, Mars, if you have Jupiter, Uranus over your natal Mars at those degrees that I spoke of, again, 13 to 29 degrees within that range, you're going to be, this is going to be a very activating type of a transit for you. It will help you to feel more motivated. It will help you, not mind working to get things going. Mars always moves energy. So if you have, wherever your natal Mars is in your chart, whatever house it's in, you'll be able to look at that and go, oh yeah, that I have been motivated in that area all of my life. Well, now Jupiter and Uranus comes in and goes, hey, have you thought of this? And we'll not only bring you the enthusiasm and the optimism to get it going, we'll bring people into your guides and guardian angels. Like, we're going to bring people into your life that can, just help open up that area for you. Whatever area, whatever house that this is coming into your chart. So Mars can be like the driving force in our chart. Mars relates to, and it rules Aries, but it relates to all forms of being more and more independent. And it can sometimes bring in some conflicts, but that's maybe because you're needing to defend yourself so that you can be more independent. And then it's also our attitudes towards men and the masculine. So there can be changes there in your life. Okay, so now let's go to Jupiter. Now here's where I was talking about. This is what I was talking about before. If you're having your Jupiter return, again, that's a transit you only get every 10 years. Or 10, what am I saying, 12 years. So anything between that 10 degrees, so 8 degrees better. So 13 to 29 degrees of Taurus. If you have your natal Jupiter there, you will have had, or you are going to have, your Jupiter return. And so you want to see what degree your natal Jupiter's at, and then look at transits accordingly. But to have Jupiter return and then have Uranus coming in as well, this is like life-changing. It should open you up in new ways than you just have never even thought of. It can help you to believe in yourself. It could, if you're having any trouble with courts of law, any court cases, because Jupiter rules courts of law, it could definitely help you, could be a big help. It's Jupiter and Uranus are related to, well, Jupiter's more about exploring especially your belief system and learning the things that make, the universe work. So it rules all things like metaphysical. Uranus does as well. So this transit together is really fantastic, especially hitting your natal natal Jupiter. Wow. Now, if it's hitting your natal Uranus, you're having your Uranus return, and you've got to be about 83 or 84 years old. And that is a very, very enlightening time for anybody. It doesn't matter how, what problems they've had and how much trouble they've had, whether they ever let you know or not, they are waking up on some inner levels that maybe just don't display on the outer. But you can trust that change is happening. So just think in terms of growth and expansion, sometimes fame. It can be excess. You want to be careful with excess, especially with a Jupiter return. But usually, especially with a combo of Uranus there, you're so busy with all this new energy, this new influx of energy in your life, that you don't really have time to overeat or lay around, right? The things that, put on weight. So, okay, Saturn. If this Jupiter-Uranus is transiting over your natal Saturn, then you are going through a time of big, enormous change that breaks up that old conditioning that you were living under. And that old conditioning comes from our parents and comes from, growing through a certain time, time-space continuum, which is what Saturn rules. And, growing up during a certain time, you think this is the way it's always going to be. Well, Uranus comes along, crosses over your Saturn, and you're like, whoa, okay, no, now I see how I really limited myself. Now, Saturn also rules the government, so this could be some opening to help you out. Like there could be some government program that really helps you out, helps open up your life for you. So it's going to have, most of all, the deeper effect of helping you to break through your fears, break through the places where you've been denying yourself and saying, no, I don't get that. Other people can have that, but I never get those good things. No, think again, right? It can help you, it can help open up everything to such a degree that you have a so much more stable, solid foundation that you're working from when this transit is over. It can help free you of your burdens, your fears. It can help you to learn through the process of trial and error that it's always good to think bigger than you would ever have thought you could, right? And in your manifesting processes, this can be beautiful. So it helps to put that default in there of leaving things up to your guides, because you know that your imagination is so much smaller than theirs, right? Because they're not seeing through the veil of the duality on planet Earth. But most of all, Saturn, will help us master something in our lives. So if you have your natal Saturn in Taurus, you've been really good, I would think, at manifesting, and this could help open it up even further. So, and maybe with Jupiter there, it may be like if you're already very, very, very abundant, you'll be more generous with this transit, I would think, which could be, a beautiful way to figure out how to invest in ways that you think are worthwhile. Okay, so if Uranus is crossing over your natal Jupiter, or you're having your Uranus return, well, like I said, you'd be in your 82, 83, 84, somewhere in there. That's happening. And this could be just such a huge liberation, a huge awakening, a huge breakthrough that can help you just detach from the things that don't work anymore. It can help open up with Jupiter there. It can definitely help open up any healing in the body that may need to happen. Now, I have to remember, always have to remember that Uranus is related to lasers. So, laser surgery of some type could be something that anyone might be going through with this transit. But yeah, most of all, it's like it's a catalytic type of energy that helps to, you discover some way that you can be even more free and independent in your life. It's known for bringing through a lot of psychic development and those flashes of insight, those big aha moments. Now, Uranus is also connected to communities and groups and things like that. So to have your Uranus return and Jupiter with it as well, there could be a lot of healing within the group associations and friends. It's, your friendship would be a very good quality with this transit for you too. Okay, so if this is coming through on your natal Neptune, I'm trying to think, would that even apply? Because Neptune and Taurus would have been... Hold on, I need to stop and check some dates here real quick. I'll be right back. No, that wouldn't apply. We're talking 1889. So, and then Pluto, of course, the last time Pluto was in Taurus would have been probably even definitely prior to that. So that wouldn't apply to anyone that's still on the planet. So from there, let's go ahead and go through the houses. Now with this, imagine that you have, if you have it, you wouldn't be imagining it, you would know. If your ascendant is between those 13 to 29 degrees, you've been feeling this because, it would have been a clearing with Uranus going through the 12th. I remember going through that. It's pretty cool, actually. It's a very psychic developing time. Whatever psychic abilities you have would be even released more with that transit. And when it hits your ascendant, when Uranus hits your ascendant, if you have your ascendant at that hot point of 21 degrees or 22 degrees or 20, if it's been 19, 20, 17, 18 degrees, somewhere in there, you've been feeling it already. But when it hits, you get an even more oomph of energy. The ascendant magnetizes, so you could literally magnetize some new opportunity coming in, especially with Jupiter there. But you're going to want to be very careful, because Uranus rules shocks and electricity. So, you want to be careful with your body, right? Our little bodies are always, walking around magnetizing things, and that is related to not only your progressed ascendant, which, you would have to look at your transits for that, but your natal ascendant. So, because, that never changes. But as Jupiter as Uranus crosses over and Jupiter is there as well in your first house, and especially Jupiter will continue to move in, like you'd have a year or so of Jupiter in the first house, but Uranus would be staying there for 7 years. So this combination with Jupiter and Uranus moving through your first house would really, it could affect you in ways where you might want to change your appearance. It might just help you so much with your unique individuality coming through, your individuation. Uranus rules individuation. It's our house of self, and it's also one of the, major houses of health, along with the 6th. So, it could bring through a lot of blessings that way. And new beginnings are hallmarks of Jupiter and Uranus in the first house. Now, on another level, anybody that's gone through Jupiter in the first house probably has gone through some weight gain. But with Uranus coming in there and being there for that 7 years, Jupiter will begin at some point move into your second house of money, which is awesome. And Uranus will stay there in the first house, just kind of working it with your individuation. So you're going to be thinking more freely about your body, about your life, about the way you live your life. You're going to be more original and maybe even outgoing, which is awesome. This is a hallmark transit literally for reinventing yourself. Now, if this transit is coming through in your second house, there you go. More money. It'll have the effect of opening your material resources, anything that you hold as your personal belonging, anything that's tangible, of course, or movable, so it's everything related, most of all, to your personal income and the way you bring in money and spend money. It's known as our house of personal finance. Now, on another level, it's also the house of how we value ourselves. So this could be a very healing transit if you've been working through any self-esteem or self-worth issues. By the time this is done, you're a whole new person. Third house has everything to do with our, well, like it says here, immediate environment, but I kind of look at that and think, well, yeah, that's your house. It's also your hood, your neighborhood, it's your brothers and your sisters. It relates to our siblings. It has everything to do with the way we think and the way we communicate. So there would be an expansion and a reinvention of the mind and the way you articulate yourself and the way you think, your mental capacity, the way that you write even. The way you talk to other people might change and open because you have new interests. It could change the things that you want to study. It could bring in new study habits, which is always good if you need them. It can also bring through distractions sometimes, so you have to be careful there. But it's the third house is also the house of decisions. So if you can keep yourself focused, then you can make better decisions for yourself. It's primarily the house of learning, and learning mundane things that really help. Now, the fourth house, of course, is our home, our roots, our ancestry. Whoops, hold on, back here. I see. We have to do this point. If this is coming in at the IC, this is a karmic point. This is because this is the well of wisdom in your chart. This is the well of strength from which you sit. And to have Jupiter and Uranus cross over that point would definitely bring through that ability to have more of the real you, your real self come through. So that's excellent. Now, fourth house is all of that, plus it also brings in your family, your home. The IC can be like, coming home to yourself in brand new ways with Uranus there, and healing ways with Jupiter. But then in the fourth house, if it comes in, there, and it will transit through there. Jupiter here will transit through your fourth over that next year. So this could be very healing and expanding for any issues with family members, anything with, like it says here, your psychological roots, the way, the home environment that you grew up in, the way it felt. You could have some breakthroughs to learn more about that. Like you could have Dreamtime guidance come through that, helped you see the way it really was. And maybe you didn't know that was, maybe your parents have crossed over. Maybe they never talked about the way it was for them and gave you that sensate feeling, very sensitive feeling as to what it really was, what it was really like. So there can be an awareness with Uranus there, and you'd have that 7-year transit of literally diving into all things related to the past, related to your roots, related to your psychic sensitivities, related to your real needs that maybe weren't met. And the fourth house has everything to do with, again, fixed possessions. This is the house of real estate. So you might move. You could move house. And Jupiter there could help open up that possibility for it to be a very healing experience for you. And but yeah, so real estate, property, home, Jupiter, Uranus there will expand those possibilities and help you to get what you want, basically, and heal the past if need be. Okay, so in the fifth house, Jupiter and Uranus there does help to open you up to reinventing the way that you express yourself. It's our creative self-expression. It's our house of pleasure. It also rules children. Jupiter there, you could get pregnant if you want it, or you could become a grandma. You could become a dad. The fifth house is usually related to the dad. Not always, though, but, fatherhood is something that women do a lot of as well. And some dads do a lot of mothering. It all depends. So, but most of all, it's our house of self-expression. It's our house of games and recreation and love affairs. It rules all of the, the things that we do socially. It's our house of entertainment, sports, hobbies. Gambling, you have to be careful there. It's associated with our education and the institutions that we will go to in order to learn. That's along with the third house as well. But yeah, so most of all, just think of, what do you want? What would bring in more positive pleasure in your life? And with this transit with Jupiter and Uranus there, my goodness, to have it in the seventh house could be, for 7 years. I'm sorry, to have Uranus in the fifth house for 7 years could be really, really wonderful for opening up your powerful sense of all the different ways you can create, and that can bring more pleasure to you as well. And for that year with Jupiter in that house, we could help open things up to believe in yourself and get yourself, going, express yourself. Now, sixth house, Jupiter, Uranus here. So Jupiter, first of all, could be very healing with your health and the way you work and the way you serve. It also relates to small animals. The sixth house is small animals. But those details, those day-to-day, life, the way you schedule yourself during the day, the way you take good care of yourself and those that you love, and then the way you work. All of that could open up with Jupiter there. With Uranus there, you could go through a lot of change, but the change is because you're more aware of something that you need to be aware of, and there could be healthcare changes, like you might change your diet. We've got dietary, things with the sixth house. It's our house of adjustment. So we're making adjustments all the time to better serve our diet, our nutrition, our healthcare, hygiene, things like that. And then, your general working conditions, co-workers, all of that. You could have some new co-workers that are really free-thinking and nice to hang out with. On the other hand, they could be extremists and rebellious and just a pain in the ass to work with. There could be something like that. I never know how it's going to go. But if you have, 7... Well, I don't know how it goes unless I do your chart and your transits, and I know you. But anyway, suffice to say that whatever you go through with any transits, any planets through any of the houses, it's all about using the energy in a way to help us grow, to help us come back home to who we truly are, And so even if we have problems, we get to know ourselves better, and we get to be more strongly grounded in who we truly are. Uranus there, though, could bring through someone who's kind of eccentric, but maybe someone who also knows a lot of different things, and you're just amazed at, like, wow, how do you know all those different things that are so seemingly, detached from each other, but form this cohesive wisdom. So, okay, descendant is our love, okay? It has to do with how we love, who we love, and it can also be, open enemies if there's any, problem there. Now, Jupiter coming in to that spot would be bringing in new people into your life. With Uranus there also, they could be very, like I was saying before, eccentric, but also very freedom loving and free thinking, and maybe an astrologer friend, something like that. Maybe an astrologer lover, right? You never know. It's like taking the planet of genius and focusing on the future, which is what astrology is all about, and put that in your seventh house of relationships and partnerships that are committed, right? Somebody that you want to hang out with, that you want to commit to at least for a period of time. And whether you stay together or not is something different. But with Uranus there for 7 years, I don't know if I would recommend committing, because there can be, you've got the change agent, and you want to kind of be careful with that. But Jupiter coming in there definitely opens up partnership and relationship. So, yeah, it depends. If the person's very trustworthy, the Uranus can be like, they're just always so much fun to be around, right? Kind of unpredictable, though, but usually pretty progressive, and usually has a good high level, an ability to reason, very intelligent, and usually very sociable and connected to technology. You might be maybe this is a relationship with yourself where you decide, I'm going to really learn how to master technology. I'm going to figure out, all those things. And the same thing with Uranus in the 6th. And Jupiter coming in there could be that expansion of technology. Because remember, technology is a hallmark of Uranus, so whatever house it's in, you can look to technology to help you. Okay, 8th house. 8th house brings through all of our, like your partner's resources. It also has to do with taxes. It has to do with death benefits. You could have, especially Jupiter coming in there, you could have an inheritance that is quite surprising with Uranus. It could also be a legal issue with a trust or something like that too, to have Jupiter come in there, and it's something that you're going to have to work through. It's our house of money management. It has to do with how we will share our resources with others or not. It's a house of insurance. Maybe you get a new insurance policy on your loved one, your partner, or for your business. Just anything that has to do with resources. Having Jupiter come through can expand awareness in that area. With Uranus, then there's also that feeling that you want to be maybe a little more independent, or thinking mostly about the future and deciding what needs to change, if anything. And like I said, it's the house of taxes. It's the house of alimony, gains from your business partners, just anything related to joint financial interests. So let's see, is there anything else? Oh, it's also, how could I forget? The 4th, 8th, and 12th are very psychic houses. So this could be an increase in psychic abilities, and an increase in reincarnation and near-death experiences, and not that you would have one, but it could be like you're very interested to learn about that, and you might be kind of fascinated with it. Life after death and reincarnation, basically. Now, it's also our house of recycling. So you might discover with Uranus transiting through here for 7 years, you could be discovering new ways of recycling things that are really helpful for the earth, or you just might be really interested in keeping things moving and recycling through your life, so you're not really hanging on to something. There's letting go. There's that possibility for letting go. Okay, ninth house. I love the ninth house. Ninth house is all things related to our belief systems. It also relates to publishing, all types of media. It governs our legal affairs, our foreign interests, our religion, if you are religious, your spirituality, if that's the way you go. It has to do with the higher thought, abstract thought, learning about all those things. It's the house that rules metaphysics. To have Jupiter and Uranus there is like, whoa, let's expand in that area of our lives and see how far you can take that, and you can learn all types of things. There's so much to learn out there. Whatever you're interested in, this is the house of seeking to get the truth, because most of all, it's our house of belief system. Jupiter naturally rules this house. So, and if you have Taurus ruling this house, or Taurus in this house, Venus also rules that house, and it's all about unification and harmony for you in ways that are very grounded. So you would have a very grounded sense of spirituality. And that could be true if you have also, like if you had Virgo or Capricorn in your ninth house. You'd have a very spiritual perspective of life, but it's also how do you work with it in your daily life that is important to you. So yeah, the ninth house is also advertising and marketing. It's, like I said, courts of law, foreign countries, churches, universities. It's our house of divination. It's our house of the relatives of our marriage partners, and it would describe the relationship with your in-laws. It's the house of large animals and big nature, because it's ruled by Sag. So we're talking like the conifer forests, the big trees, our big evergreen trees that are always beautiful to look at. And then, that's the difference between the ninth and the sixth, where we've got large animals here and small animals here. Okay, the midheaven. The midheaven is a career point. It is our reputation. It's all about whatever, if if you have those degrees between 13 and 29 degrees of Taurus up here in your midheaven, to have a Taurian midheaven means that you really want to have control, personal control over your life. And actually, any of the grounded signs like Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn would give you that same kind of want, that flavor of really wanting to be in control of your life and feeling safe with having savings. It's your house, basically, of what you will work towards. You'll participate in society in a great way in order to feel more safe and secure, maybe to have some recognition. It's all about your community standing. It's all about your professional life. Worldly affairs and professional life is what, the 10th house. But if you have Jupiter and Uranus crossing over your midheaven, all gateways are open for you. Things are, especially to have Jupiter up here, this could be a peak year for you as Jupiter moves through your 10th house. Now, to have Uranus up here, it all depends on how clean you've been in your life. To have Uranus go through the 10th might not be a good transit if you're a dirty politician or corporate person, or if you've climbed your way to the top just to take money. This might not be a good transit for you when you have, because Jupiter and Uranus can kind of blow things up in your career, and people see your reputation, and yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about there. If your whole life has only been focused on making money, that's got to bite you in the butt at some point. Now, just most of all, does it have anything to do with your integrity or lack of, right? So if you've been good if your integrity has been high, if making tons of money was not the focus of your life, but was more about, being in alignment with spiritual law, being in alignment with your higher self, being in alignment with the laws of love, and that doesn't mean that you give yourself away constantly and you have weak boundaries. No, that would actually be the opposite, because integrity is hallmark with the 10th house. It's all about your integrity. So Jupiter and Uranus coming in there can be a really good transit for you and can really help you to open up in new ways to share who you are publicly. Now, 11th house. This is a house of, if you've done a good job with career and reputation, to have Jupiter and Uranus come through the 11th can bring through more friends and groups, like-minded kindred spirits, big organizations maybe. And it's also the house of wishes and dreams and goals. And it's also the house of having fun with friends. It's also the house of fame. So you could have some wonderful experiences there where if you've been working out in the world for a long time, it depends on what degrees are in your 10th house there. But if you've had a lot of experience and worked very hard for other people, whether you're self-employed or this is your house of employment, if it's your house of employment, you could have promotions. And then by the time you get to the 11th house, you're sharing more with the groups that you didn't even realize that you were gifted in working with different groups. But now you have that opportunity to do it. And it's so much, it's a lot of fun that way. It can be a lot of fun. A lot more responsibility, but also a lot of fun. And also you get a lot of support because there are other people to help you out. So you learn how to delegate. And you learn how to work within a large group or a small group, any organization, at any level. Now, the 12th house. So if you have Jupiter coming into the 12th house, you are opening up a very spiritual realm coming here. I know it says secrets and things hidden. It doesn't have to be that. That's kind of like old text, old ways of thinking. I see the 12th house as source energy, spirituality. Now, it can be your own little self-created prison if you're needing downtime, or it can be your solace and solitude and sanctity and sacred space if you're needing downtime and healing. This can be a wonderful transit for connecting with your guides and guardian angels on the deeper levels. It does not have to be limiting and bondage and all the the negative qualities that they used to talk about, but it could very well be that for someone who's been dark and dirty, and now it's coming to fruition because it is a hallmark house of endings and beginnings, endings and new beginnings. Things coming full circle are what the 12th house is about. So Uranus coming through the 12th can increase your psychic abilities or make you aware that you have psychic abilities. If you have Taurus there, you probably already are very connected to all things, in the physical realm very, very well. And now to open it up with Uranus could be a beautiful, beautiful way of just expanding your awareness so, to the highest levels. The 12th house is also our house of charitable organizations and relief, agencies, working in hospitals, working in rest homes, or helping out, charitably, helping with rest homes. It's also the house of working within, like, maybe a prison system. If it's a really dark, dirty politician with this politician or corporate person, this would be when they go to prison. A transit like that could be very shocking. It's like, uh-oh. But then, no matter what, it still turns out to be a healing experience for them, because, like, maybe the scariest thing in the world for them was to be alone. And they get locked up and they have to be alone. And then they find out when they're with themselves, they really aren't alone. You can only go crazy with being alone for so long. And maybe if you're a really dark person and you needed to appreciate other people, you would learn that lesson in there, right? Because Jupiter, no matter what, will always help you to heal, even though it can be challenging sometimes for some people. And most of all, this is the house of all things karmic. Okay, so Uranus there can make you aware of old karma, which karma to me is nothing more than the law of cause and effect. And the law of cause and effect comes into play because of your belief systems, because of our belief systems, I should say. So all you got to do is shift your belief system if it's been, too limited. So, you know what? I realized I forgot to go through the backdrop energies here. Oh my goodness. So that's okay. I'll do it now because I'm complete here with the houses. So the important thing with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction going on to know, in the background, we have this square of Ceres hitting this stellium over here in Aries, and then connecting to the south node, which is the past. So the past that is connected to relationships and justice and healing. Maybe we had a maternal imprint that was very dependent or codependent, and we're healing those tendencies. And with Ceres hitting with the square to, now this is a separating square, so it's not as tight. But remember, when Ceres goes retrograde, it'll come back into orb with the south node of the past and then also the north node of the future. But for now, with all these squares to Mercury, Venus, Chiron, and eventually, I won't get into Eris for now. Let's just keep it within the tighter orbs to make more sense, because I'll talk about this in the weekly transits, of course. Ceres, of course, has everything to do with, trying to get our women's reproductive healthcare rights back. But the tight orbs now have to do with Venus, the square to Venus, which again is women's rights and independence. Aries is all about independence. Chiron is, with Venus catching up to Chiron, is showing us this deep wound that women have been living with for millennia, right? Millennia, under the thumb of the man, right? Under the thumb of the establishment, being considered less than an equal. It's bullshit, right? Basically, real bullshit. So these things are changing and will begin to change even more because, of course, with Jupiter-Uranus in Taurus brings in the Venusian aspect. Venus is all things feminine. So there's a double whammy there. Let's see. Mercury is conjunct the North Node and it's retrograde. So again, we're addressing this issue of independence And for you in your personal life, this is all about you being more independent, you being more vocal, you standing up for yourself, but also being careful not to have verbal diarrhea, not to invade someone else's space, not to not consider. It's all about considering the other, because, of course, the opposing sign over here is relationship-oriented Libra. So you have to like put yourself in the other person's moccasins a lot of times. When we have Mercury retrograde in Aries, conjuncting the North Node, no less, we are revisiting those issues. And it's okay, if you've made mistakes in the past, please forgive yourself. Don't hold on to that. Don't beat yourself up with it. Mars rules Aries, so we want to be careful not to beat ourselves up and not to victimize ourselves either, because Mars is in Pisces. It's all about connecting with your source energy and knowing that we are human. Which means we have complexities. We have so many different parts inside of us. And just because you identify one little negative piece of, habit or negative fault, you think it's so negative. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the way you survived when you were little. And now you're learning that, well, you want this specific kind of relationship that's more open and loving and accepting. My goodness, to have unconditional love in your life is a really beautiful thing. But if you haven't had that, especially with your parents, you won't know what that is. And until you have a longing for it, right? But until you actually give that to yourself, you're never going to have it from another partner. You have to give yourself everything that you want from them. You can't put that on someone else, because then that's what brings in the dependency and codependency. And there's that polar opposite. And there's that, wanting independence, but also feeling like you don't want to be left out, feeling like, you don't want to be abandoned. And so you might be impulsively kind of needy and holding on. And the other person over there is like, whoa, that's a lot for me to take in. Or maybe it's over on this side, on the Libra side, and the Aries side over here is like, I'm out of here, man. I can't handle that. And then, you lose relationships, and that's not fun. That's not fun. So just remember, everything is always on the inner levels first. And that is the major thing going on there. Now, these inconjuncts here, these quincunx aspects, from the sun to the moon, brings in that, and the sun is, newly into Taurus as well. So that brings in the need for an adjustment. Quincunxes are always the need for an adjustment. And the adjustment has to do with the fact that now you've gotten some facts, you've gained some knowledge, and wisdom is coming through to help you handle things in a way that brings more stability into your life. So wherever this is happening, in your chart, you just have to put these degrees, draw it into your natal chart and draw the aspects too, and you'll figure it out. Or if you use an astrology program, what you would want to do would be to put your natal chart in the center, and this would be a bi-wheel, and then you can see the direct hits, but then you're also going to want to print out the grid so that you can see all the aspects, because it gets to be complicated that way. But anyway, so back to the backdrop here. With the moon trining Pluto, let's see how we've got this approaching energy. With the moon trining Pluto, there's going to be some intuitive hits to help you really understand the depth of what matters most, to be more discriminating than ever, to bring some divine order into your life that can help you have more power over some area of your life. Wherever Pluto is showing up in your chart will be important there. So this chart is just for this day, but it's the backdrop of all of this going on. And I'll cover this a lot more in the weeklies. So this will just be a little brief overview. the sextiles happening. Oh wait, hold on. Let's do this other in conjunct. Saturn to the south node has to do with testing boundaries, getting healthy boundaries in place with relationships from the past, because you want to keep, balance is everything in life. Balance is literally everything in life. And Saturn is over here in Pisces going, okay, you want this solid spiritual foundation so that you can unfold all of your artistic creative abilities and your psychic abilities. But something has to go, because there could be some relationships that are pulling you away from that because they want your attention. And there's an adjustment that has to be made about that. So it's about getting your priorities straight, but you can expect to have your limits tested in some relationships or one relationship, and that could be challenging. Now, with Mars really close to Neptune and getting closer every day because Mars moves pretty quickly, we're dealing with moving energy, and there's more of an activation to your spiritual path, to source energy. This can be really, really good for meditation, dream time. Keep those dream journals by your bed and one by the bathroom when you get up to go pee. And we've got the sextile coming from Neptune up to Pluto. So there's psychic powers galore with this one, and ways to free yourself from limitations of the past. Now with Mars in this double sextile down to, see how Mars is at 22 degrees? Uranus and Jupiter are almost at 22 degrees. So we have the two sextiles, so two forms of opportunity coming from what motivates you most to bring more freedom and healing into your life. So that's the the actual backdrop there. The little semi-squares, I'm just going to blow those off because they're just transitory for the day. Those are really tight orbs, as well as these inconjuncts. I'm really just giving you the day there. So with that, I am done. Okay. I hope this is helpful. Thanks so much, you guys. Take really good care. Bye.